What's up everyone, John from ARTV. It's time for a review of the 5th studio album by alternative band MuteMath. I've been a fan of these guys for quite a while now, dating all the way back to 2009, and a couple of their singles like Backfire, and then I got into the album that came out before that, the excellent self-titled that came out in '06, and songs like Typical, and of course the amazing closing track on that thing that's purely instrumental, but entirely captivating, just showing what they were going to do as a band someday, where they really just capitalize on the instrumental and just the chemistry part of the band that plays so well off of just vibing in the studio, coming up with some very creative ideas. So the name of this new record that just came out is called Play Dead, and unfortunately it now sees MuteMath down even 2 more members, especially a huge loss in the form of DK, the drummer. Darren King, playing the drums for them since 2002, departing the band. And honestly guys, he's one of the most underrated drummers in alternative and rock music right now. I love MuteMath, and going back, listening to their discography just before reviewing this album showcased and reminded me of all of his talent. He adds so much to these songs, and I don't think the band would have gotten as far as they did, or at least they wouldn't have stood out from the pack if it wasn't for Darren. So I have to say that this being a final album for him drumming on Play Dead, I'm worried for LP 6. I'll push my worried thoughts to the side for now, because while I will miss Darren, we have him on this album. And this is a record that was crafted over the past 5 years, ladies and gentlemen. I'm talking half of a decade here. I'm talking Paul Meany and company of MuteMath were working on this album right after Odd Soul dropped in 2011. And in 2012 up to 2017, they were working on crafting this album. In fact, a lot of these songs existed in their early forms before Vitals, their 2015 record, was even started. I do apologize that I never got to a review of Vitals. It happened right when I was in the middle of moving. It was November of 2015, a very chaotic time in my life. And honestly, that record just kind of slipped through the cracks because I feel it is very one-dimensional, kind of flat, and something where it feels a bit more void of life. Whereas MuteMath are known for being a bit more colorful, and I think the title and the cover of the album is a bit misleading, because I understand with Vitals, Paul Meany wanted to strip things down on that record to just the bare essentials, like how many notes or how few notes can we get away with playing on this album is exactly what he said, and I think that that definitely did show. It was more skeletal and more minimalistic, and I don't think that that really worked for MuteMath all that well. It was something that was clearly influenced by the 80s, and then some synth pop, and obviously alternative bands and that sort of thing, and a little bit of themselves in there, of course. They didn't stray all that far. It's just that the album as a whole really just kind of face planted for me. It didn't really go anywhere, and it never really merited repeated listens. Whereas this new one is a big step up, and you can tell that they put time and energy and so much heart and soul into this album, because it bleeds through almost every single note. And while not every single song is just mind-blowing to me, I think that this album does a great job of feeling connected, whether it be with the chemistry, like I already mentioned, the band playing together as a tight-knit group, or just bringing in these electronic flourishes, these big synthesizers, or even some of the more stripped-down moments that just focus more on the vocals and some more ghostly synthesizers, like on the track Nuisance. I think that that's one of the biggest highlights here, but all throughout this record, really, they do a great job. And once again, Darren King is another big star here. His drumming and his driving rhythms, especially during some of the instrumental breakdowns and outros, just is the saving grace. Not the fact that they were falling apart, but they just take it to that next level, exactly what I would have wanted from some of these songs, and they have me coming back for more and more and more, because there's so many layers to peel back. Leading up to Play Dead, MuteMath fell into the tropes that all of these other bands seem to be doing, where they release way too many singles. I think 4 or 5 dropped from this only 10-song project, so that was a bit troubling, but at the same time, I only let myself hear 1, and I'm totally fine with that. I don't like spoiling records, and I'm glad that I did that. Hit Parade is the first song here, it's the first single on the album, and I think it does a great job of luring the listener in. It kind of shows you exactly what you're going to get on this record, because it has those big electronic moments, and then it has the bomb bombastic drums, and the driving guitar, and the sweeping chorus, really just everything. I think Paul Meany is so underrated as a vocalist and a lyricist because all throughout this record you can tell that he's torn. He has problems and he has internal conflict, and he's kind of wearing that on his sleeve. And it's not like that's anything new to MuteMath because he's explored everything from religion, because obviously I think the majority of the members of the band are Christians, to I guess some more relationship driven themes, but I think that they always do it in a way that's very inventive. They kind of carve out their own lane and stay there. Some of you watching this video might have only discovered MuteMath in the past year because of the TOPXMM thing that came out. I think it was like last December or else early January. 21 Pilots and MuteMath collabed, and that was a lot of exposure for them. And at the time, MuteMath had actually 2 more members. Like I said, they're down members at this point, so it is a bit troublesome. I don't know like what the turmoil in the band is, or if it's just the fact that Paul Meany is such a perfectionist. He worked on this album for 5 years. I don't know if he had the band doing just like crazy sessions or crazy just schedules all around. I don't know what it was, but I hope that this new exposure that they have doesn't just come for nothing, because I don't want the band to break up after they do this tour for Play Dead. This record is an absolute trip to listen to. It's something that you can really fall into the vibe of, and I'm glad that I listened to it distraction-free because I was driving, I was playing it, and I was focusing on the music, and I was really getting to the groove, whether it be just a little synth lead in, or a little guitar part, or a guitar explosion that comes out of nowhere, like on Placed on Hold, one of the best damn songs here that caught me totally off guard, but it threw me for a loop in the best way. It's like when you go around the roller coaster and you were like, I didn't think I was gonna like that, but holy shit, that's fun, let's ride it again. This album really has so many delectable songs to dig into, like Stroll On with its big peppy drums, or Pixie Oaks with its amazing guitar and drum combo, really pushing the guitar to the forefront, letting it kind of be the star of the show. And that's not something that we often see on this album, because MuteMath, yes, have been known for their driving guitars in their music, mixing that with other influences, and I don't think that the electronics are anything new because they've always made use of the synths and maybe even some orchestral pieces in the past, and I don't think that that's the case here. That's not what they're really bringing to the table, but the electronics mixed with the guitar, not really turning out electronic rock, I wouldn't say. Like I said, they're just kind of carving out their own place, because I feel like it falls under the category of alternative, but it's not alternative that other people are doing. There's only 2 songs here that fall in the single category, I think, that fall between like your standard 3 to 4 minute song. Most of these, in fact, everything except for those 2 tracks that are Nuisance and Stroll On, everything else clocks in at mainly 4+ minutes. Most of them are 5 or 6. And whenever you have a good handful of 6+ minute tracks, and I'm sitting here saying these are damn captivating and they are so good because they have so many things to digest and really interpret from, whether it be the lyrics or just processing the instrumentals and letting it all hit you in waves. There is so much to enjoy, and one of those moments that I really have to give praise to comes right towards the end of this record. We get an amazing track called War that I love. I like the vocals on it a ton. Meany really unleashes there and kind of talks about some internal conflicts once again, and we've seen that several times. Obviously, Nuisance is another one of those where he talks about being an annoyance and feeling like a burden, and then obviously Break the Fever as well, where he doesn't know what to do with himself. But the main one that I have to single out and praise here is Achilles' Heel, because this song gave me chills the first time that I really processed what all was going on here, because it has this kind of amazing synthesizer that twinkles. It has a beat almost and a booming bass to it that doesn't feel like it's trying to be trendy. Neither does the rest of this record really whatsoever, because they've been making this for 5 years. They've been crafting it, perfecting it, honing it. They've been making it what they want it to be. It just feels like an alternative album with touches of dance, touches of rock, and obviously MuteMath and alternative. So here on this one in particular, they just lay down this beat that I would be surprised and actually very disappointed if a rapper doesn't hop on this, because listen to this, listen to the perfection here. I want to start spitting bars over this. Long and captivating instrumental outros are a strong suit, somewhere where MuteMath can flex, and they've definitely done this in the past, even dedicating entire tracks to being instrumentals. We've seen that obviously on their self-titled debut, on the closing moment there, and then a couple of tracks on Odd Soul really struck me that were just instrumental, and listening to the instrumentals of that album, it was something that I got because I think I bought like the CD and it came with the instrumental version as well. It's something that kind of blew me away. Some of the moments like Sunray just jump off the page, and they show you exactly how talented they are as musicians, what goes into the heart and soul, the bones of these albums. And here you can definitely see those moments that are just lining this entire album, because they gleam on tracks like I just mentioned, Achilles Heel, and then another incredible outro on Everything's New. And some of the other moments like Break the Fever as well, they have moments in there where they take a break to just focus on the instrumentation and not jam necessarily, because it definitely feels calculated, but not in a way it's like, oh, I could see this coming from a mile away. I think that this album really is going to surprise some people, especially if you listen to Vitals and you thought, wow, this is kind of simplistic. I don't blame you. I would give Vitals a 3 out of 5. But before that, I really love everything from MuteMath, and in fact, I just reminded myself and refreshed myself on the records, and I was like, these still hold up quite well, especially Odd Soul and the self-titled. Those are my two favorites, and I honestly have to say this is another one of their best albums right here. I think that this is going to go down as maybe one of my favorites of the year. We will see, but I want to give this a strong 4, maybe even a light 4.5 out of 5, and a very high recommendation just because this is kind of exciting. It's exciting for me because it doesn't sound like a lot of what I'm hearing right now. And MuteMath have never really gotten enough praise. It's like they're always like on the brink of like getting bigger, but then it doesn't quite happen for them. So don't let them keep being the underdogs. Let's give them some support. Check out this record. I do hope that you guys enjoy it. There's going to be a link to stream it on Spotify in the description. You can go directly to my Patreon page by tapping right here in the corner of the screen. And don't forget to subscribe while you're here, because friends don't let friends go unsubscribed. If you'd like to see another MuteMath themed video, tap right here. Don't look at my Odd Soul review. This is for the TOPXMM thing, because the Odd Soul review that I did, it was back in 2011. I haven't reviewed a MuteMath record since then, so I'm glad to kind of be redeeming myself here. Anyways, socials are in the description, and I'll see you very soon right here on ARTV for more.